Shalom, 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 saints. This is Raah Yahchanan, also known as Pastor Johnny, from the Multitude of Christ Ministry, where we seek to teach all nations of people how to find true salvation according to the Holy Scriptures. I greet you and I come to you in the name of the Heavenly Father, Yah, and His only begotten Son, Yahushua, Yahweh Shai, however your understanding and wherever you are, sisters and brothers. I greet the 12 tribes of Israel scattered throughout the land, and I am humbled and grateful to be able to come to you with another Bible study lesson on yet another Shabbat. Well, sisters and brothers, we're about to get into it. This is going to be a tough one and a deep one, but I pray the Most High opens your ears and lets you see and understand the revelation coming from this lesson today. It is entitled NIL, the destruction of a nation. Yes, the acronym for name, image, and likeness, which is becoming a phrase more and more on the lips of parents and young children throughout the world. And I'm going to break down this scripture in this lesson from what the Most High showed me by being there on the grounds personally. I went there for one reason, to a university that I'm going to name later, and the Most High flooded with me with a whole different understanding and a whole different vision. So if you're ready, let's get this Shabbat started. Let's get into this Bible study lesson entitled NIL, the destruction of a nation. If you wouldn't mind, let's stand. Let's face Jerusalem. Let's open up. We're going to start from the book of Deuteronomy Chapter 6, beginning at verse 4. And it reads, Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh Akkad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love Yah, thy Elohim, with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hands, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes, and thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house and on thy gates. Hallelujah. Now, if you wouldn't mind repeating after me, Yahweh's prayer coming from the Messiah himself, and it reads, Abba Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Yahweh. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so on earth. Give us day by day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, for we also forgive everyone that is indebted to us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. In Yahweh's name we pray. Hallelujah. 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 All praise and glory. You may be seated. We're going to have a song selection from our music ministry led by Lala Music.
All right, if you at home, work, wherever you at, give the Most High Yah some praise today. All right, excuse the technical difficulties, but we're going to get this praise and worship out. Hallelujah. So as I was saying, if you at home, wherever you at, give the Most High Yah some praise today, for he is good. And if you love him, you will keep his commandments. Hallelujah. If you love Yah, you will keep all his commandments. For Yahweh, he is a mighty and jealous God, showing mercies only to those that love him. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna keep Yah's word. I'm telling you the truth right now. Right now, don't you understand that this is not a game? Your life's in his hands right now, right now. If you love Yah, you love Yah, you will keep all his commandments. For Yahweh, he is a mighty and jealous God, showing mercy only to those that love him. What kind of person are you, acting like you're so righteous, but not living in the truth right now, right now? But if you hear his word and be obedient, you can make a change right now, right now. If you love Yah, you love Yah, you will keep, I know you will keep. For Yahweh he's a mighty and jealous God, showing mercies only to those that love him. Ooh, if you love him, love him. If you love him, love him. You will keep them. Ooh, if you love him, love him. If you love him, love him. You will keep them. Ooh, if you love him, love him. Love him, love him. You will keep them. Ooh, if you love him, love him. If you love him, love him. You will keep them. You love Yah, you will keep. I know you will keep. Woo. Hallelujah. For Yahweh he's a mighty and jealous God, showing mercies. Woo. Only to those that love him. Ooh, if you love him, love him. If you love him, love him. You will keep them. Ooh, if you love him, love him. If you love him, love him. You will keep them. If you love him, love him. If you love him, love him. You will keep them. Ooh, if you love them, love them. If you love them, love them. You will keep them. You love Yah. You will keep. I know you will keep. Come on, y'all. Will y'all keep his commandments? Hallelujah. For Yahweh he's a mighty and jealous God, showing mercies only to those that love him. Hallelujah. All praise to the Father.
Shalom, Mashpaka. To all the Akim and Akwats out there, I greet you again in the name of Yah, Yahuwah, Yehoah, Yahweh, wherever your understanding is. Sisters and brothers, this lesson right here, NIL, the destruction of a nation, this is for all the saints out there that are raising children, that are adults now, that are seniors now, that have lived a long, fruitful, full life. Sisters and brothers, this is one of them lessons that, Raah probably ain't going to be popular for, but I'm not in this for popularity, right? We're the ones that come into the truth and say we left all the heathen ways behind. We don't follow none of the man's holidays. We're new, right? We're following the Israelite customs and ways. But sisters and brothers, the more and more you grow with the Most High, you have to see that more and more your eyes will open to how deep and entrenched the programming is. Like, I still can't get my sisters and brothers to understand how could you be out but still living according to the time system of your oppressor, right? I still can't get you to understand that you are still living according to the calendar system of your oppressor. Sisters and brothers, you would lose your mind if you didn't get paid from your oppressor. When you can read in the scriptures that we were supposed to be living independently, only subservient to the one and true living Elohim, right? He was who we totally depended on. Besides that, we go get it out of the mud. We put our hand in the ground. We didn't go into the Egyptian system to make money, or in the Babylonian system to make money, or into the Greek system to make money. We had our own intricate network of money, kind of like Black Wall Street back in those days when our money passed between our people. So now we're going to move forward into this lesson today that I'm going to rock some minds. I know majority of you are going to tune out. You know why? Because you are so programmed to your oppressor's way of entertainment that this lesson is going to numb you out. The enemy, like the sower of the seed, is going to come in immediately and fill your brain with years of programming that you've had since you was a child. See, many of you don't know your programming has been so in depth until you hear something that rocks your way of life, and then all those years of what so-and-so said and so-and-so taught and so-and-so said come running back into you, and you reject the Most High trying to move you to another level. So let's talk to the parents right now who are expecting children, looking to have children, or you have children in secondary education, coming up through elementary, middle school. I want to ask a question to all the parents. Out of all the trades and skills necessary to recreate and live like our foreparents did in the Black Wall Street, why in the world, or do you know the answer to why our kids only want to throw a ball, run with a ball, shoot a ball, or dance or sing? Have you seen that the levels of opportunity given to our males, and even now our females that are acting like males, is very, very narrow? So out of all the millions of children that we're having, someone has made the opportunities very, very few, although you'll get some token Israelites on TV saying our opportunities are endless. Well, if our opportunities are endless, why don't our children see it from preschool all the way up? I'll say it again. If our opportunities are endless, why don't we see it being taught to our children from youth all the way up, myself included? So let me segue that into our lesson. How do you destroy a nation of people? I know a lot of things immediately started to run through your head. So let's go through a few of them. One of the ways you could destroy is to take away the religion of a nation. Like, you do know before Jesus, the people of the world had other gods. You do know the Europeans had their own god named Woden and Woden up in Upper Europe. Before there was a Zeus and a Jupiter, when you went up to the Netherlands and Ireland and up north, they worshiped Woden and Woden, and they had their own version of heaven. All the nations of people on the earth had their own gods and their own version of a heaven. Now, either we've gotten smarter or we've gotten dumber throughout time. I'm going to leave that to you to answer. But every time someone comes in to colonize and take over a people, they go right to the temple. They go right to the religious belief. And they destroy it, dismantle it, but not before they take away the treasures and the documents that explain what it is. They don't need a bunch of copies. They only need one copy, and they burn the rest. How about education? You come in and you take over a nation and you say, forget their education. You want them to know what you are teaching. How about even through the Bible, you can see you come in and you definitely murder off all the males. Definitely the male adults that have some understanding. Or you kill off the male adults and you kill the children off. Why? Because you can stop the next generation of males coming. They don't have to kill females and old women and young girls, because in reality, only in 2022 do women think they're a threat. But 2022 in America. But nowhere else in the world is a woman a threat to the structure. I know that just rocked a whole bunch of feminists, but I'm just being honest. And if you're honest, we can keep moving in this bill. But when nations come in, they don't kill off the women. They kill off the males and they kill off the young male children, right? They kill off the older males because they got the understanding and the knowledge to pass down. So you kill off the skill set and who you are, right? Or they come in and they use a technique, they starve out the people, right? then you can come in, you could destroy a nation of people, definitely, because you leave a lot of single women. So who do you think are going to marry or mate with all of these women that are in heat? You got a tribe of 10,000 people. 6,000 of them are women, 4,000 of them are men. You kill all the 4,000 men, what do you think is going to happen with the 6,000 women? They're going to mate with whoever won the war, right? Here's number 7, intermarriaging, and you breed them out. Because once you get rid of all the males that could mate and breed with the 6,000 women left, all of a sudden now, if you're of your father's seed and your children are not whoever the colonizer is, correct? And also, so if you don't kill all the men, what do? They incarcerate them and they put them into the what? Gold mine fields, coal mine fields, cotton fields. They put them into slavery. You see that in all kind of movies. Even when the aliens come, they abduct the humans and make them what? Slaves. To get diamonds or ore or platinum or whatever they need in their ships to get back to their planet, right? Every movie you see on Netflix, you're enslaving people, right? And then another way you destroy a nation is to come in with drugs and alcohol, right? You give little trinkets, you get them to taste that fire water, and you could destroy a whole North America with fire water. They're still struggling with getting off that fire water and methamphetamines and drugs. These are just a few ways that you and I probably know in common that you can come in and destroy a nation after you colonize. After you come in and destroy them and expand. You know, this world has never stopped. Even from before the flood and after the flood, there's always been nations of people who have tried to go and take other territories and expand their turf. So let's read some scripture. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 4. Hosea, the 4th chapter, and we want to get the 6th through the 7th verse. And if you're watching this lesson, I hope you understand who you are and why you're watching. Because we don't want to go back to one-on-one understanding. You need to know why you're watching me and what you're watching this ministry for. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou should be no more priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of Yahweh. Who is the people? The people are the Israelites. What's the knowledge? The law of Yah. Because you have forgotten it, I will also forget thy children. Verse 7. As they were increased, as who was increased? As these people who forgot the law of Yah. As they were increased, so they sinned against Yah, me. He's saying you are sinning against Yah. I will also forget, Shalakia. Therefore will I change their glory into shame. Sisters and brothers, there's a very specific reason why the nations have targeted the Israelites and scattered them throughout all nations, but yet take their glory, but not their shame. What am I saying? Everybody wants to be you, but nobody wants to be you. Sister, they want your lips. They want your hair. They want your body, but they don't want you. They don't want your attitude. They don't want your anger. They don't want your singleness and your spite for males and your lack of wanting to procreate, have children. The other nations want all of that. So they don't want to be specifically you, but they want your ability to bear children in hard times. You know, there's nations of people out here that are struggling to have children. But there is a people on this earth that through countless and countless captivities and countless disparities have always been able to have not just any kind of kid, very powerful and athletic and very strong children. Like health-wise, not just physically wise, but health-wise, and the ability to endure a lot of pain and affliction. So at the same time, the nations are envious of you, the nations hate you. Because you, the children of Israel, the descendants of Jacob, you are the people that he said should have been priests, but now you will be no more priests to me because you have forsaken and forgotten my laws. Let's go to Exodus chapter 19, Salakia. Exodus chapter 19. So you'll hear a whole bunch of Israelites that are in other religions now, like Christianity, speak against the very God they say they serve. But Salakia, they're not serving Yah, they're serving his son. And his son didn't say serve me, his son said serve my father. But somewhere in translation, the colonizers have gotten the people of God to now forsake him knowingly to accept a son who came and said, don't do that. I was not sent of myself. But sometimes you read these scriptures in the Gospels, in the New Testament, and it just flies over our family members' heads. Watch this. Exodus chapter 19, verse 6. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests. Who is the ye? Let's find out. And a holy nation. I'm not just talking about the destruction of any nation, although the NIL is going to destroy anybody under it. Like these colonizers are making laws and rules, and it affects anybody that subjugates themselves up under it. They're not a discriminate. They don't discriminate who they make money on, even their own people. But the children of Yah had a whole different custom and belief and ethnic rules and morals that they stood by. They were supposed to be priest kings upon the earth, a holy nation for the whole earth. So if you get rid of the holiness on the earth, now the whole earth becomes what? Abominable and ungodly and unholy. Let's continue. These are the words which thou shalt speak. He's speaking to Moses, unto the children of Yasharah, unto the children of Israel. The children of Israel are the holy nation, the king of priests. The same people Hosea is saying will no longer be priests unto the Most High Yah. So we're going to dig down and find out the destruction of this nation. Listen, we disobey Yah. Yah is going to use the other nations on the earth that we should have been over to destroy us. Let me prove it. Let's go to Psalms chapter 83. Let's go to Psalms chapter 83. Because you know our father Abram comes from the Ur of Chaldees, from Mesopotamia, through Syria, down into Canaan. He went to Egypt, came back up into Canaan, right? And his descendants, right, all the way down to Moshe, unto Joshua, was supposed to go to war against the nations in Canaan and remove them, remove every one of them. Doesn't matter if it's coming from the heathen or if Yah said do it himself, the same thing is going to come in of how to destroy a nation. And Yah specifically said, kill every one of them, don't let one live. But the compassion of humanity is sometimes the downfall of humanity. Psalms 83, starting at verse 2. Listen to this. For lo,
thine enemies, we're talking about the enemies of Yah, the enemies of Israel. Thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come. Who said come? These other nations that surrounded the children of Israel. They said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. What kind of nation was the Israelites? A holy nation of king priests. This isn't any people that was destroyed. You just couldn't come and destroy them as long as we had the Ark of the Covenant and we walk with Yah. You just couldn't come destroy a holy nation of king priests. These people had to turn on their Elohim. I tell my children, I said, yeah, the devil's out there seeking who he can destroy and who he can devour, but you can also bring on the punishment of Yah by disobedience. And I think some people confuse the punishment of Yah with the devil out doing his devil's work, right? He works for Yah. If you don't want him, you remember the Lord of the Rings, how that eye just kept turning on people? If you don't want the eye of Yah and you don't want him to send the devil after you to punish you, then you should just follow the laws and be obedient. But just like that eye moved around, you can bring affliction on yourself, i.e., this holy nation of king priests became unholy and they brought the wrath and the anger of the Most High Yah on them. Right? Let's continue. He said in verse 4, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. This holy nation of king priests, there is a conglomerate and a confederacy of the nations that surrounded them at the time. You got to understand, this nation of people was small and very close to Israel. But as the other nations of the world grew and became bigger, now it encapsulated the Spanish and the Greeks and the Romans and the English and the Russians and the Far East and the Chinese. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. But these nations of people said, these heathens said, let us cut off Israel from being a nation and be remembered no more. Verse 5, for they have consulted together with one consent. The UN comes and they agree and solidifies that we are still all around the world. We are in confederate, that the children of Israel, these people never find out who they are and never call on their God ever again. So out of all the things we're voting for, yeah, we're at war with each other and we need to have sanctions against these people. But one thing they solidify and they keep ratifying every time they meet is that we're going to keep the children of Israel, the people, actual people, not the people over there. And that ain't even Jerusalem. Those people aren't even the children, the descendants of Jacob or Jacob. We're going to keep that roost going on. But around the world, we will never let the true children of Israel know who they are. We consent. We agree as one. They are confederate against thee. And then verse 6 on down goes on and starts naming all these people. All right, so we got a kingdom of priests, people who are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and the nations have come against them. So the people, it clearly says in verse 3, crafty counsel against thy people. I want to make sure that's clear. We're talking about a nation, the people make up a nation. Just like the people make up the church. The people make up a nation. So these people, because they stopped following the laws of Yah sent the surrounding nations that they were supposed to destroy, and the people that were supposed to be subservient to Israel have now come together and They came against the Most High Yah. And the biggest assault fronts are written in Daniel. It's the biggest affront. First came Assyria, then came Babylon, then Medo-Persia took over Babylon, then Greece took over Medo-Persia, and then Rome took over Greece. I want to make this clear. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 17. I want to get all of that out and make sure we're clear. How do we get from, in verse 6 on down, how do we get from Edom and all these little places that were around Israel? How did we get further into the other nations? Because the children of Israel were dispersing and scattering, and wherever they went, they were taking on the customs of the heathen, which the heathen hasn't figured out. If you got the children of the Israel in your land, you better make sure they're keeping the laws of Yah. It's no different than when Sennacherib or Shalmaneser and them put those Babylonians into Samaria. They were getting ate up by them lions until they learned the laws of Yah. So, let's think. If the children of Israel are now scattering into Arabia and Iraq and Iran and India and South Africa and everywhere, America and all over the world, the leaders of those places aren't smart enough at the UN to say, we need to make sure to separate, give these people their own land and let them worship their own God. That would have been safer for them. But instead, they wanted to try to destroy them off the planet. And it can't happen because they're the chosen people of the Creator. Let's move on. Jeremiah chapter 17, and let's start at verse 4. That's all we want. Jeremiah 17 and 4, and it reads as follows. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage. So at the time of Jeremiah, at the time of his prophecies being written in this book, you were talking the northern kingdom is already gone. They've already been removed from the land. Now we're talking about the southern kingdom of Judah. Now these Judites have now began to discontinue their heritage. So the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes have already been not only discontinued, but removed from the side of the Most High Yah, removed from the land that he chose for his people. Now what's left is the Judeans, the land of Judah, Benjamin, Levi. Now they have discontinued their heritage that I gave thee. Who gave them the land? Who gave them the commandments? Who gave them their life? Who gave them their quadas from the other nations? Who gave them their holiness and sanctification, set apartness? The Most High Yah. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. So these people didn't just make a confederate to destroy them in the land, they also removed them out of that land. See, it was so prosperous. I mean, the other nations was wanting to come there and dwell there. Let's kick these people out. Let's come in. Let's come in and become them, the Idumeans, right? So wherever the Israelites are scattered today, we are serving our enemies. Y'all got to deprogram that Christianity, man. You clearly there's no way you can say, I don't have an enemy and we should forgive. And that same enemy is killing your children, cutting your salary, removing you from work, making it hard for you to live purposely because you don't understand you're under the curse. You are the people. And you got to understand you do have and you always have had an enemy. That was the biggest epiphany to me. I'm sitting here loving my enemy and they could be setting me up to destroy myself. Secretly. You my homie, you my boy, but privately amongst themselves, they call me the N-word and every kind of other derogatory word. The Most High said, I will cause thee to serve thine enemies, which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn. How long? It's going to burn forever. So how long you think this discontinuance of heritage. If the 10 tribes is already gone, now Judah has now discontinued the heritage. As a nation, the true understanding and heritage, when are we going to get the land back? When the Messiah returns. So when are we going to get our full knowledge and power and glory of who we are? When the Messiah returns. That doesn't mean we can't know who we are and still practice obedience now. Because guess what? We are being punished as a nation of people right now. And you got to understand why we are being punished. Because we have forgotten the law of Yah. You can't walk around here saying you're knowledgeable and you don't, at the minimum, keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High Yah. So he said we have discontinued from our heritage. Heritage is something inherited, a general estate, a portion. What portion did he give the children of Israel? He made them holy. He made them peculiar, sanctified, set apart, king, priest, and he put them in a certain land, and he gave them power to subdue any enemy that would come against them. That's what we gave up. We gave up dwelling and communing with the Most High Yah. So now that we've cleared up how do you destroy a nation and what nation I'm clearly talking about, I'm clearly talking about the diaspora, the scattered tribes of Israel throughout the world, the chosen seed of the Most High Yah. That is who we are. Now let's get into this NIL, which is the ability of college athletes to make money off their name, image, and likeness. Sisters and brothers, I want you to understand this is just the singular example of a much bigger problem. If the college sports arena is now putting a label to what they have been doing and not paying them for, you can assume that they have been manipulating and deceiving and destroying this same people in not just college, but pro sports, in the medicine field, pharmaceuticals, in every arena of the world in which these people are. You know, they have been using dead cells from an Israelite sister for almost a millennium. Excuse me, a century. What's 100? Century. Good. Salaki. Almost 100 years they've been using a dead sister's cells and using our bodies as experiments, Tuskegee experiments and things of that nature, trying to figure out how this people is still surviving and how do they not get certain sicknesses, how are they able to stay in the sun so long, how are they able to do this, that, and the other. Now, for all you naysayers that are looking at me scoffing right now, if you look like me, your foreparents used to be in zoos. Don't come to me with that new propaganda, European politics. The same people that are telling you to love them, their foreparents had your foreparents in the zoo. So you getting your kids ready tomorrow on Saturday, you getting ready to take them to the zoo in your city. Remember, you used to be in them cages. You used to be the monkey, the gorilla, the parrot, the snake, the whatever you're looking at and your kids going, ooh, look at the giraffe. You used to be the giraffe. We in 2022, man, and our people minds are warped. We hate each other because we have forgotten that we were the monkeys in the cage. They was looking at our mamas' big butts and people coming about, ooh, look at her butt, look at her. The same way they're in awe of you, they don't want to be you because you're still in the cage. But they want your thick legs, they want speed, they want your men's strength and ability to jump. They want to throw, they want everything that is about you, but they don't want to be you because you got a curse on you and you don't even know it. So when we shrink down this whole world and this microcosm of how the children of Israel are scattered through all the earth, and the nations are trying to create schemes to make money, but also we want to destroy them at the same time. So when you look at the NIL and you look at college athletes, man, you go all the way back and you think of Frazier at Nebraska, and you think about Bieniemy at Colorado, and you look at Ward down at Florida State, and you look at Desmond Howard at Michigan, and you start going back and you start thinking about the Jim Browns and the Plunkett's, and you start thinking about all these great names of college athletes that got all these records. You think about what Bo Jackson did. You think about Charles Barkley in college, and you think of these dominating people from back in the 60s, 70s, all the way back. They didn't get paid. But somebody was making money off the concession and ticket sales and the memorabilia of that university. Who made it so popular that every kid wanted to wear North Carolina jerseys? Who made everybody want to be North Carolina? I remember when I was coming up in high school, it was either North Carolina or Duke. Who played for these college teams that would make high school kids around the world fight, like physically fight, because you like North Carolina because of Jordan and somebody else like Duke because of whoever? Look at the mindset of our people to be controlled. The athletes that was making these college sports popular, and they made millions of dollars. Some of these stadiums and coliseums are bigger than the pro basketball fields. Some of these baseball and football stadiums are bigger than, and they make more money than the professional teams. Who is the majority of the people on these college teams that now they say they want to pay them? You know why they say they want to pay them now? Because our athletes are starting to go down into HBCUs and they're going out of the programs. They're going out of the Power Fives, right? So when you look at college athletes, they say now they want to pay them. But so you have a component, and now the minority that's arguing is saying, why are we paying these college kids money? We've already paying for their classes, room and board, meals, books, transportation. They get stipends, they get free grant money, and they can go do work study to make more money. That is the normal life of a college student, if you didn't know. So all you parents raising up these kids in AAU and Pop Warner, listen, you know why Talib Khalib and his brother, you know why parents are fighting at AAU games? They're fighting at AAU games because they know that there's not that many basic scholarships. So now their kids is not just fighting in AAU basketball, soccer, baseball, and football. Now these parents know that not only can my kid get their school paid for, room and board, I ain't got to do nothing. And then you got these sponsors coming in. Like anybody in your town, Home Depot could sponsor my kid. Kool-Aid, Buffalo Wild Wings, PetSmart, Porsche can give my son a car, right? You want to talk about transportation? That's more like if you're in the inner cities of Chicago, that's like a bus pass. That's like paying for your kids' Uber. Most sports teams are on school buses, right? But the school bus take gas to run it, so that has to be allocated in transportation. But now my kid he played them video games all the time. My kid could be if he's the number one player in basketball, he could get sponsored by 2K. Millions of dollars. Oh, my kid's like Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's is gonna pay the best players now. And now the schools, you want to talk about stipends, they're giving kids $200-300 a month or something like that. And the big schools is probably giving them more money than that. I don't know. I didn't go to a big D1 power school and know how much a stipend is. But now with the NIL, these kids is making thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. on top of all of that already being paid for. So when you start talking about partial scholarships for your kids, you know, like when I came out, man, the council was like, man, if you don't want to write these essays and stuff, just fill these applications out to get your books paid for. Just fill out this free application and get this, that, the other. And if I didn't do that as a walk-on, I wouldn't have made it because I didn't know that it was broken down into all of that. Okay, I got a dorm room, but if I don't got meals, then how am I going to eat? You could be in a dorm room and not have your meals. You could have your classes paid for, but you got to need the books for the classes. Colleges break down, however many scholarships they're giving, they break them down into all these different areas. There's money allocated per player, and that's why you'll have people fighting and trying to kill each other in AAU sports. And now on top of that, now with the NIL for the name, image, and likeness, right? So it was a big deal when Travis Hunter, the number one receiver, goes to an HBCU and not Ohio State or Miami or Alabama or Oklahoma. It's a problem. It is a problem, especially if you look at the dynamics of basketball, how some of these same sponsors have been giving money under the table to athletes all the way in middle school. All the way in middle school, they got a handler that they give the money to, and he's close to all these players in Chicago or wherever the best hoopers are, right? They got people that can get access to these players to give them money. Now NCAA and the Supreme Court is now saying, no, now we want you to pay these kids above the table. Now college sports is a profession. It's a profession now. Look at this. In June of 2021, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled against NCAA versus Austin that the NCAA could not limit education-related payments to student athletes. They can't limit them. They cannot limit them. NCAA cannot limit the money to athletes. What is that saying before June of 2021? NCAA and the colleges were they were making billions, but they weren't giving the athletes, the student athletes that was at their universities that drew all the people to the stadium, 60,000 people a week, memorabilia, food sales, all the above, that they weren't paying them. Imagine if 60,000 people come to your city, not just the university benefits, the hotel benefits, the gas station benefits, the grocery stores benefit, the whole community and city benefits by all of those people coming to that one university area. Y'all follow me? So the NCAA then deferred the state's laws on NIL. They deferred to state law, right? And in the states that hadn't passed laws, the schools themselves, two things remain verbatim per the NAACP. So no pay for play, no quid pro quo. Athletes weren't supposed to receive compensation tied to performance, and recruits weren't supposed to sign deals contingent on going to the certain schools. Sister brothers, this is the NIL. This is going to change and has changed the landscape of AAU, high school sports, and college and professional sports as we know it. Who are the majority of the people in these sports? It's Israelites. We are the minority at even the PWI, the predominantly white institutions. We're the majority at the HBCUs. We are the minority at the predominantly white institutions. But guess what? Now with the NIL, you're going to have a bunch of Israelites from the ghetto, not raised by fathers, effeminately raised by their mothers, now walking around on universities as millionaires. If our people wasn't ready to be millionaires before the NIL, what do you think these young men are going to do now to get to these Power Fives and get to this NIL money? They're going to destroy themselves. Because now the high schools who hold these kids are going to now want a piece of that NIL pie. Okay, you want to start quarterback for me? You want to be a linebacker for me? Whenever that endorsement come, I need a piece of the money. It is going to destroy the whole fabric of this system because it is not prepared for it. You remember I said earlier, there's only a few lanes they've left for our children to be successful and make money. Now in the music industry, they've did away with 360 deals, and now they've got this new deal where they want 360 plus your merchandise plus your touring. We want it all. And as soon as you get big, we're going to give you just enough money to go in there and lay down 100 to 200 songs. And then all of a sudden, now these musicians are dying. What's going on? Who owns the catalog? The same people that put the money for the artists to make the catalog. Who are the majority of the musicians making money out here persuading and influencing people? Who are our children talking about? Because, you know, our parents right now, they're still 45 to 50. They acting like they 20 and 30 years old. So they know the artists that are now influencing our children. The line has been blurred. But now all of the artists are dying. And now what do you think is going to happen when the gangsters in the street who've been protecting this athlete to play sports now know this athlete in college is going to have access to millions of dollars? We don't have no institution to protect our children at 17 and 18 making millions of dollars. These colleges are not the pros. So now you're about to see the colleges have their own FBI, CIA type agencies. You're going to have all kind of, and a whole bunch of little young men get in trouble. Our young men and our sisters are not ready for this kind of money that's coming. So I want to ask a question. What is the real purpose going on at JSU? See, I told you at the beginning, I was there. I didn't post this on social media because when I went there, after I took the pictures and I was thinking about posting, the Most High just started hitting me just like, what is really going on at JSU? Because I played at a high level in sports. And I want to tell you parents and you young athletes coming up, are you really looking at JSU for what is happening there and how it's affecting HBCU? When have you known the colonizer or any institution to allow people to start taking money out of their pocket? You taking Power 5 money by taking the athletes. Why you think Nick Saban went so crazy? You don't want young Israelites to start having an understanding of, hey, I want to go back to a school that embraces my culture. I want to play ball for people that look like me. You know, it didn't work before Deion. So now you got these people, number one, 5-star, 4-star, giving up Power 5s to go to JSU. Why? You idolize Deion that much? It's got to be something more to it, because I went there. They don't got the facilities of OU. I've been in the bud. I've been through the weight rooms. I've been all over Oklahoma's university. And now I watch destroying. Have you seen what's going on at Oregon, at USC, at Michigan? Like, why would you come to JSU? Because Deion said he could get you into the pros? It's not OU, Texas, Michigan, Ohio. Do not their athletes go to the pros? So what's going on with this NIL, and what is Jackson State being used for? What is the real purpose of Deion Sanders at JSU? Is he serving a greater good, or is he gentrifying HBCUs? I'm asking a question. I'm not no hater, because I'm going to get in depth in this lesson, right? Because I'm trying to figure out, because Deion has been the most flamboyant and outgoing image and likeness of what an athlete should be in the last 50 years. There's no athlete more flashy, flamboyant, Jerry Curl, chains, money, There's no one that's more loved and hated by the colonizer than Deion Sanders. You can't pull off what JSU is doing and the HBCU is doing without Deion. They've tried. They put Doug Williams. They put some famous people down at HBCU. There was famous people coaching and working at HBCU before Deion Sanders. Before Deion Sanders, the HBCUs were struggling and they were about to start closing down schools. You can even see it in the All-American spinoff on Netflix on what is it called, Homecoming. You can see one in their first series, they showed you that the HBCU was about to be taken over by a PWI. They was about to merge it. I'm like, I seen that as a young man at Langston. Langston ain't Langston no more. Langston is Oklahoma State University Langston. So HBCU now is now owned and financed by a PWI that can close Langston whenever they want it. So I'm looking at Jackson State like, what is going at the Sonic Boom in Mississippi? You can't get no more Israelite than Mississippi. 60,000 fans at Jackson University. They send the most polarizing athlete in the last 50 years. Is he serving the greater good or not? Because this is what we understand. There's 5 types of masters when you come in to colonize. Our people run into 5 types of masters. We run into the racist master. He'll let you succeed, but you got to be separate and away from him and his people. You remember when you growing up saying our people used to live across the railroad tracks, Rosewood? Salakia for the technical difficulties. So listen, it doesn't surprise me. So 5 types of masters out there, 5 types of people controlling what goes on in the world. You got the racist masters. They'll let you succeed, but you got to be separate. You can have your own companies. You can have your own land. But don't come over to where we're at, right? You got places like that in the middle major cities. Then you have a capitalist master. He's going to let you succeed, but he needs a piece of the pie. I need a percentage. I need a tribute, right? Then you'll have a flat out evil master that'll let you succeed, but once you succeed, he's going to take it all from you. That's what we're seeing in the music industry. Show me a musician that don't have a European engineer. Show me a top musician that don't have a Ivine or, some kind of a European handler above them. Show me in sports top athletes that don't have European managers, accountants. You know what I'm saying? And they wonder why they going broke. If people robbing them, they don't ever get their money back. But who did they select to be their handlers? My investor, he had me doing all these things. I didn't know what was going on. Next thing you know, I'm broke. Then you'll have a jealous master. He'll work behind the scenes to corrupt every effort you're doing to try to succeed. That's the person that he don't like that they say you're well endowed. I don't like LeBron and what he's doing with his children. I don't like seeing these top musicians and top athletes. I just don't like it. I don't want my children to be around these people. That's the kind of jealous activity that you'll see going around, passing laws, writing bills to just destroy you before you are successful. Then you'll have a deceptive master that lets you believe you're being successful, but has an alternative plan for the efforts. Is there an alternative plan? Like, what do you think will happen to Deion when he leaves Jackson State? Deion is going to go on to be successful because Deion has always been used to be successful. You remember back in the day, he used to be a preacher, and him and Emmett used to be on TBN, moving all of our people to Christianity. You don't see a lot of that stuff going on right now because Christianity is just a thing to do to be a part of a group to get benefits and, to get the money you need. But like What do you think is going to happen to HBCU when Dion leaves? Have you not noticed the coaches that are on Dion, not on just Jackson State, but are also on colleges around the nation? Like HBCUs, what if they start to look majority black as far as the enrollment, but on the teams you start to see half and half white and black? You're starting to see more and more white coaches who never cared about Jackson State. But if you can't get a job at a predominantly white institution and high schools won't pay you and you can't coach there and you can't get in the pros, HBCU is the last ditch effort. These European coaches not going to HBCUs because they care about us. Dion is on TV saying these predominantly white schools, they need to increase the level of black coaches they have on their team, because as these players start to get money, it's going to be problematic. But at the same time, he's bringing Europeans to coach on his staff, and however you slice it up and make it look, is it going to be for the betterment of HBCUs? I know many of you might be saying, man, you just being a hater, you coming down on Dion. Listen, I've seen success at a very young age. I know what success looks like. I'm not coming down on what I used to be used the same way Dion was used. I've been on championship teams. I was successful in wrestling, in football, in track and field. I'm not coming down on what Dion thinks he's doing. I'm asking, is what he's doing going to be beneficial in the long run? After his sons all graduate and go to the pros, is he going to be that invested in Jackson State? What are you going to say when he leaves? He's not going to stay there like the Grambling coach for 30, 40, 50 years. You don't think he has other goals and aspirations after that? What would be the status of HBCU? Will they have all those cameras and all those pros? Will they still have the HBCU pro days? I ask all this stuff. As an athlete that was on that level, you know, as a son that come up through high school ball, I got a young daughter. We all got children coming up. Like, how is this NIL and the impact that's going on at Jackson State? What is going to be the long-term objective for our people? What is going to happen? Why is it such big news, and why is that all our children can talk about? Why is everybody gearing up for football season? I'm not playing in a game. I don't know nobody personally that's playing in any of these games is on these teams. Even if it's somebody that went to a college or a high school that I went to, I don't know them personally. If you walked up to somebody in the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball that went to your high school and you walked up to them, hey, I'm your alumni, I went to so-and-so, man, they're going to be like, security, get them. We don't mean nothing to these people because we don't have a culture that's about building up anything. Everyone is out for themselves. And this is a lesson to the children of Israel, the saints out there that are raising young kids that thinks it's okay to keep them in popular sports. NIL is going to be a further destruction of a nation that has already been destroyed. It's just another incentive for you to keep your kids in those AAUs. Oh, my kid just want to play soccer. It's innocent. You know what I thought? I thought that I could have my kid in it from like 5 to 11. But once he got in middle school, I had to get him out of sports because I know how the coaches are. And I know how coaches turn your children against you. Many of you don't know. Many of you parents walk around living through your children, which ain't good. I want my kids to be successful. They're going to retire me. That's not. But as the saints of the Most High who say you're going to keep the Sabbath of the Most High, you already know that at one point, if you keep your kids in sports, you are going to break the commandment of the Sabbath. And that's why you see people come in and out of the Shabbat and in and out of the truth because of their children. See, that's what prompts a lesson like this. Because they use the famous people, they use the Deions, they use they use Yeezy, they use the Jay-Z's, they use people to keep us in entertainment, because if we're in entertainment, we're not focused on the things of Yah. Let me show you something. Let me show y'all something about sports. Remember, track and field, I was successful in shot put, successful in football, successful in wrestling. Even at high school, I had to choose between football and wrestling. But let me show you something. This is the javelin throw. I hope y'all can see that online. You see that? Greece, the javelin. You know, they still throw the javelin in the Olympics, right? Let's look at this. It was in Greece that sports was first instituted. Where? Your 66 book, sister and brother, don't tell you nothing about Greece and how it pertains to Jerusalem or Judea or the Israelite people. Your 66 books, without this apocrypha here, leaves you ill-equipped to have a conversation with me or even have a dispute about what I'm saying about sports, JSU, Dion, anything. You can't have a discussion or a debate about anything without sticking this 15 books right here. You need to stick it with your 66. I'm sorry, 14 books. You need to stick that with your 66 so we can have a conversation. Because I'm about to go in right now, and I know if you ain't already upset, many of you are going to be upset because you've already spent a lot of money on your children. And if you don't stop now, you're going to spend a lot more. It was in Greece that sports were first instituted formally. Formally. Wait a minute. We're going back to Greece with calendars, with time, with holidays, with birthdays. But y'all don't want to listen to me. So I'm going to add another one to the fuel, and hopefully you'll pray to the Most High and the Ruach will wake you up. It was in Greece that sports was first instituted formally. Within the first Olympic Games recorded in 776 BC, before the Common Era or before the birth of Christ, in Olympia, where they were celebrated until 393 after the death of the Mashiach. But Olympics never stopped, but I'm talking specifically in Greece. These games took place every 4 years, or Olympiad, which became a unit of time in historical chronology. Wait a minute. Our 4-year chronology of the Olympic Games, who's the majority of athletes winning in the Olympic Games? When you see the Olympic procession on opening day, it don't matter where you are in the world, who you see and what nations are winning. What nations are winning in the Olympic sports that matter? So it don't matter what land, what country you're in, what flag you're flying for. These melanated people, it don't matter what language you speak, who's winning the top medals that get the most publicity. So to all our sisters and brothers raising your kids up in track and field, it is a Greek instituted sport. You can't be Israel and you still got your kids doing Greek customs. I didn't know it. But when I came into the truth, my son was very young and I had a conversation with him. And the sure thing that I told him happened. He did not believe me that them coaches was going to come against him because of the Sabbath day. And he had a hard time in high school because he kept the law, statutes, and commandments. And I told him as a little kid, before he even got to the size and the speed and the strength, and the coaches was like, we need you, we need you. Before he even got there, had the love for the game, I told him, you don't have to play sports like me. You don't have to do anything. You can, hey, We trying to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. It's going to be a problem if you start playing baseball or basketball or football in these sports. I'm telling you, by the time you get to high school, it's going to be a problem. And guess what, sisters and brothers? It was a problem. Because when is Texas Relays? It's on the weekend. When is most sports the finales, and when do they show all the championships? On the weekend. That's when we was keeping the Saturday Shabbat. They were on the weekend. But we don't keep the Saturday Shabbat no more. So now that we keep it the Most High's calendar, why would we have our kids in sports, period? Sister and brothers, sports has been used to keep the children of Israel from following the laws of Yah. Look, what do you notice about these Greeks throwing the javelin in Olympic Games? They don't have no clothes on. This is Greek sprinting. What do you notice about the Greek sprinters? They don't got no clothes on. Look at this. The most widespread and socially significant form of same-sex sexual relation in ancient Greece amongst elite circles was between adult men and pubescent or adolescent boys, known as Pederasty. Marriages in ancient Greece between men and women were also age structured, with men in their 30s commonly taking wives in their early teens. So not only was men having relations with young girls, they was also having relations with young boys. This was common in Greece. Why you think all the Greece, when you go look at ancient photos, they all show people with no clothes on? Look at boxing. Could you imagine seeing Floyd Mayweather fighting Pacquiao with no clothes on? How about watching a UFC fight with John Bon Jones and Adesanya, and they don't got no clothes on? Can you imagine seeing a UFC fight with men with no clothes on? This is not making sense. But this was commonplace in Greece. That's why they show all of the Olympians with no clothes on. So we got our kids in track and field, sprinting, throwing the javelin, right? We got them boxing. Boxing is in the Olympics, right? But boxing is also a professional sport. There's also AAU or boys club boxing, right? Let's continue. So it said, pederasty in ancient Greece was a socially acknowledged romantic relationship between an older male who was called a Aristes, and a younger male, Eromenus, usually in his teens. So look, these older Olympians and these older people, they've already come to what we call pedophilia. They've already succumbed in Greece to being molested as young children. But in Greece, they call it normal. It's normal for a young boy to have a relationship with a young man. An older man. The English word pederasty, right, in the present day usage might imply the abuse of minors, right, pedophilia. But in Greece, where the word pedophilia comes from, it wasn't an abuse of minors. These men were marrying young boys and girls. So our women today are talking about multiple wives and multiple wives. Well, in Greece, it was common for a man to have a young wife and a young boy. This was common in Greece. But the Athenian law, for instance, recognized both consent and age as a factor in regulating sexual behavior. So this is something that the young children had to choose. Look at the wrestling. They show wrestling with no clothes on. Boxing, no clothes on. Javelin, no clothes on. Sprinting with no clothes on. It goes on to say, Greeks did not conceive of sexual orientation as a social identifier as modern Western societies have done, like we do today, right? Greek society did not distinguish sexual desire or behavior by the gender of the participants. Let me read that again. Greek society did not distinguish sexual desire or behavior by the gender of the participants. Ain't that what's going on right now? What they got, gender bending, and it don't matter who I am and who I sleep with. I just go with the flow, and whoever I want to be with, whoever I want to lay with, I just do what I want to do with who I want to do it with. I'm nor this nor that. I'm not a male nor female. I'm just it's confusion. But it's the Greek way, and they programmed us through their customs and their way. Why do you think that books was taken out of your Bible? They don't want you to go back and learn nothing about these Greeks, because it was openly known that the Greeks were dealing in pederasty. That's their word, right? But rather by the role that each participant played in the sexual act. So this is how they distinguish, like out of these two males, I want you to understand, out of these two males wrestling, watch this. That of the active penetrator or the passive penetrated. So out of the relationship of two men, you are known as either a penetrator or a passive penetrated. This is how the Greeks get down. Within the traditions of pederasty, active or passive polarization corresponded with dominant and submissive social roles. So you would know by a man and how he walked or how he conducted himself, very effeminate, whether he was a what? Passive, or if he was a submissive male. The active penetrative role was associated with masculinity. So the more masculinity, they still made him today, as we would consider, right, a pedophile or as a homosexual, they considered that masculine and manly to be the top, the penetrator. Higher social statuses in adulthood, while the passive role was associated with femininity. So the one being penetrated, the bottom would be considered more effeminate and feminine, but they were both males together. Lower social classes and the youth. Look at this. Greeks. You know, the Greeks had something called pancration or pancration. It's like UFC. It consisted of boxing and wrestling. Ain't that what UFC is? Both boxing, wrestling. You're not really doing karate or anything. It's really more submissive holds, boxing and wrestling. Pankration. The Greeks started the UFC. Ain't the UFC fairly new? But it's not fairly new. The Greeks was doing it in their Olympic Games. Pancration, wrestling, boxing, javelin, shot put, sprinting. Everything that we're doing came from Greece. You telling me we're not like our colonizers, but the main colonizer of the Bible, Daniel talks about them, but you don't hear nothing about it in your Matthew to Revelation. You don't hear nothing about these Greeks. Look at this. Athletes competed naked as a tribute to the Greek god Zeus. All these pictures you're going to find of Olympic athletics in Greece, they're all depicted as naked because the athletes competed as a tribute to Zeus. They wanted to show Zeus their physical power. Listen, their physical power and muscular physique. Showing off their body also helped intimidate other competitors, right? Since Greek heroes were often depicted nude in artwork and sculptures, this inspired athletes to train harder and win their event. Athletes wanted to be compared to true heroes like Hercules and Achilles. Sisters and brothers, these athletes, look at our outfits now. In wrestling, just go look at my picture. Look, we got on singlets. It still showed your body. It showed your rear end. It showed your front. Look at UFC. They don't wear nothing but the bottom half of a wrestling singlet. Everything is boxing. Everything is still showing your body and your physique. But you know what the Greeks did? Not only were they naked to honor Zeus, but they also they were naked and they felt like it would brought on immortality to win in the Olympic Games. They wanted to be immortalized. They felt that by winning their, because in Greece, in Rome, they made statues of their top artists, their top athletes, and they honored them so their name would live forever. Remember, we're getting into name, image, and likeness. So they wanted their name to live forever. And the only way that would happen was by you winning in the Olympic Games. They would make a statue of you, right? They don't make statues of our athletes now, but they give us trophies. Trophies are statues of someone, right? Just like the actors get Oscar awards, Grammys, they're giving you statuettes. All this stuff comes from Greece. How about our fraternities and sororities? How much of our programming is Greece? What's the word? Greece societal norms. And we over here talking about we don't have a culture. Yeah, we have a culture. It was given to us by our colonizers because the Europeans keep what other Europeans that they like. They keep that. You think Rome came in and changed anything Greece was doing? You think Greece changed anything that the Medo-Persians did or the Babylonians did? Anything to keep this people and this nation of holy king priests down, they kept it going. So let's look at NIL in a breakdown. The only one we're going to get to this week in part 1 is name. So let's look at name. The word name in a strong concordance, Hebrews 8034, right? When you say to the name, you're talking about a mark or a memorial of an individuality, right? Honor, authority, character, famous, fame, the reputation. When you say a name, like you see, only in America, you got 2 types of names. You got 3 types of names. One of them that's predominantly in our community is made up names. We take a name of this person and we take a name of that person. We put Johnny and May together. We got Johnny May. You know what I'm saying? Your dad's name is Jeremiah. Your mom's name is Sarah, and you Jamera. You know what I'm saying? Like in our community, we just make up names. Then you got names that have meaning, right? Like Hosea, salvation, right? Yahshua, Yah is salvation, right? Like a name that has a meaning. No matter what name you have in whatever culture, names have meanings. Then you have Christian names. Names that more align with Europe colonization of Christian names. You know, John, Robert, James, Mark, Matthew. You know, you start getting all of these Christian names, right? You start having all of these so-called savages from Australia. Next thing you know, my name is John Smith. Your name, John Smith, right? Or you bring somebody from China over and call them Mark Johnson. Bro, you from China, you don't look like no Mark Johnson. So these are more Christian names, right? More popularized names. Like whatever your name is in Asia, you might come over and now you're Hong in America because they keep all of these Hong, Wang, you know, and they might not even be your real tribal family name back home, but it's the name through immigration you're given, right? It comes with a reputation. It comes with a memorial. It comes with, it's called Shem or Sham in the Hebrew, right? Your name is supposed to mean something, right? Webster's Dictionary, Webster's 1828 says, your name is that by which a thing is called. So everything that we use today has a name, right? I say broom, you know what that is. I say light, you're looking either for something internal or you're outside looking for the sun, right? Everything has a name, right? So the sound or combination of sounds used to express an idea or any material substance, quality, or act. So a thing, you can have a name by what it does, right? Or a thing can have a name by what it is, what we call it, or what it looks like, right? It says appellation attached to a thing by a customary use. So how a thing is used, that could be the name of it, by which it may be vocally distinguished from other things. So what we vocalize and call something is what it is, right? A name could also be the reputation or character. So you could call somebody by what they do, right? So what I do every Shabbat is teach. So you can call me More, right? Or pastor, right? Raah, right? So a name could be reputation or character, that which is commonly said of a person, right? As a good name or a bad name. Like you call somebody a devil. You call somebody an angel. You're trying to characterize the action of that person, right? So a name could also be fame, honor, celebrity. That's kind of what we read in the Strongs. And it could also be memory or memorial, right? Like Yah saved, right? So you could also look at it like the scriptures talking about what Yah did for the children of Israel. Yah is their salvation. Yasha, Yahshua, Yahoshua. He's the Yasha or the savior of Israel, Yasharal, right? So name consists of all of those things, right? So let's go to Psalms chapter 76. Let's break down this name part of name, image, and likeness according to scripture. So if you're going to use a name and somebody's name is going to make them money, right? Or somebody's name, so LeBron's name was Sprite. LeBron gets paid to endorse Sprite. Sprite makes money by more people buying Sprite because LeBron drinks it, right? Name, image, and likeness. So you got these top athletes coming up. You got Bronny Jr. coming up. You got Pippen's sons. You got Shaq's son going into the league. They get tied to endorsements even before they get to the pros that could bring money by them marketing and using it, right? Someone eating Kane's chicken, the young kid that was at OU playing quarterback, and just Rattler, he goes to what did he go to, USC or Arizona? Excuse me. He goes to a school, I think, in Arizona, and now he's getting endorsed for eating Raising Cane's chicken strips. So they're attaching the name and the marketability of our children, and our children are endorsing items which they get paid for, but it's to get the people that follow and idolize these athletes to use a product more and more, right? So Shiloh Sanders, Deion Sanders' son, he gets an NIL deal with Porsche. So he gets to drive around in a Porsche, and so everyone wants to be Shiloh Sanders and get a Porsche endorsement. So now athletes are going to want to come to Jackson State to be near Shiloh. They want to be the next Shiloh and get the next what? Porsche endorsement. You follow me? But Shiloh's name being the son of Deion, so you got name, image, and likeness, right? You got this powerful name, Sanders, associated with Porsche. You see how this is all working? But who are the people in these sports? Who's in football? Who's the majority you see on TV in basketball? What you see in baseball, right? What you see when you watch the Olympic Games? Who's winning the sprints? 400, 800, long distance, long jump, high jump. Whatever we deem is important, we become good at, and we teach it to our kids. Our kids aren't in hockey because we don't play hockey. But if we play hockey and hockey is important to us, it'll be important to our kids. You see the power of influence? So since they know our kids don't want to play, be really good in golf, they raise the price, keep us out. We don't really want to play hockey, raise the price, keep us out. Baseball is now getting very expensive, keep us out. Soccer, very expensive, keep them out. Keep who out? The fast, strong, tall, big kids that could dominate. What happens when you get two little Compton girls and teach them tennis? What happens? They dominate it for the next 20 years. So nobody in Europe or nowhere in the world, French Open, US Open, no Open, can't beat them. So look at this name, Psalm 76, verse 1. In Judah is Elohim known. His name is great in Israel. So what name do we read later on in Psalms 86? I think we read that what? His name is Yah. In Judah is Yah known. His name is great in Israel. So when you hear Yah, Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yehovah, listen, we talking about Israel, sisters and brothers. We are the one in all of these sports. So I'm talking to the saints. You raise your kids up in sports, you're going to lead them right to a Greek custom and practice. By the time we get to part 2, man, we're going to tie all of these things together. Name, image, and likeness, and how it's destroyed the children of Israel, because majority of our people don't even know who they are. Right? Let's go to Psalms chapter 124. Psalms chapter 124, verse 8. And it says, behold, Salakia, 124 and 8, our help is in the name of Yah, who made heaven and earth. So if the only help you need is Yah, the only way you can get to a point where you can hear Yah is to deprogram yourself from the holidays, from the customs, the games, the activities, the events, anything popularized and given to you by he who has colonized you is not for you, sisters and brothers. Our help is supposed to be in Yah, in the name of Yah. Remember, we're not getting into it here, but in next week's lesson, he surnamed us. So if our help is in Yah, and Yah's name is known in Judah, it should be known in all of Israel, northern kingdom and southern. But we know people discontinued their heritage. They stopped calling on the name of Yah. They stopped wanting to be known as the children of Israel. Right? Let's go to Ecclesiastes Chapter 7. So they don't want to be known as Israel no more. And now we're going to be whatever our colonizer calls us and whatever he wants us to be. Man, Dion brings in this European NFL coach this past week, and he's giving a speech to the players, and he says out of his mouth, you know, the NFL teams, they don't care where you come from. They don't care what you've been through. And he's saying it like it's this great inspirational thing. He's at an HBCU telling these majority Israelite football team, the NFL don't care about your story, your struggle. Everybody has one. Where you came from. What they care about is who you develop into and whether or not you're going to be a great professional for their team. You're going to be a good slave. And so when I'm looking at Dion and I'm looking at him and I'm looking at Dion and I'm looking at him and I'm like, Dion is fashioning the perfect slave to go play for the masters in the NFL. It'd have been different if Dion said it. But what he's wanting them to do is believe that he can get them to the NFL. And I'm telling you, everybody on Jackson State and they ain't going to the NFL. Then everybody in HBCU ain't gonna make it. He got the popularity and everything, but he's making them believe everybody on the team has the potential, but everybody in that team does not have the potential to play at the next level in the NFL. So when I hear a European come and say something like that, kids go to HBCU because the HBCUs do care where you come from. They do care about your background. You're around people that understand the plight of growing up in the projects, growing up with gunshots every night, seeing dead bodies every day. You know, the average European and the average kid that lives in the suburbs ain't understanding that. That's why you go to HBCU, for the richness of people that look like you, that been and walk vast different lives. You bring them together, but you share the same commonality of skin tone, and you understand you have some reach, whether it's religion, whether it's something, y'all are going to share more in common than going to a PWI. For now, what the HBCUs will be in the future is still to be determined. Let's go to Ecclesiastes Chapter 7, verse 1. So parents, when you raising your children, you got to understand that if you're telling them they're Israel and you got them in congregations and assemblies and camps around the country, if you're telling them an Israelite, you cannot raise them to keep the law, statutes, and commandments and then put them in the Greco-Roman sports and then have them break. Listen, this is when parents are losing their children. You break the commandment for your kid to go to that soccer game. You break the commandment for your kid to go to that basketball tournament. You break the commandment for her to go to the dance recital or for him to go to the football jamboree. What do you think that kid is eventually going to say? My parents are a hypocrite and we don't really, they say we're keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, but you remember, it's what you do that kids follow, not what you say. You're saying we keep the law, statutes, and commandments, but then the assembly sees you breaking the commandment so your kid could be a superstar. Oh, she got this dance recital. Oh, she got a singing competition. Oh, she got a modeling contract and now she got to break the Sabbath. She can't come to the feast. How are you keeping the law, statutes, and commandments? And do you really think your kid is going to keep the law, statutes, and commandments long term? Or are they going to have their foot one foot in, one foot out, lukewarm like you do? It's just a question. Ecclesiastes 7 and 1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. What is the reputation? What is going to be the fame of your children? What is going to be the recognition of the representation of your family? What are people going to remember about your family? Man, we was watching this week the story of Manti Te'o. And I'm like, I lived when Manti Te'o played at Notre Dame, but I never knew the whole story. All I knew is that what the media depicted him as, oh, he got catfish. I just moved on with my life. But now hearing the same story, one thing, watching his dad, you know what his dad said, you have ruined the reputation of our family. Whether you did or didn't know you was catfish, you have ruined the name and the representation of all Te'os in our community, our Polynesian community. We don't have no cultural pride, and we don't have. I mean, we say we Israel, but we don't hold to being a child of Yahchanan like that. When we see our brothers and sisters look stupid on housewives of this and hip hop of that, or pastors of this, and we don't DM them and say, you have made a mockery and a shame of the children of Israel. When our pastors fall off and he sleeping with little boys or raping girls or having other babies outside of his wife, we don't put him before us and say, you have disgraced the name of Yahchanan. We don't do that. We don't have that cultural awareness. We don't have our heritage to where we can say that person cannot be among us because they've done this. A good name is better than precious ointment. Let's look at it in Proverbs chapter 22. Turn to Proverbs chapter 22. Proverbs chapter 22:1, it says, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. You are to take awareness and pride and understand the name that you choose and give to your children. It should be more important than you trying to get the bag. And it says, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. Choosing a name for your children is supposed to have meaning. It's supposed to be powerful. When people say it, it's supposed to mean something. Not just the name you give them, but your surname, the name that we're all walking around with our colonizer's last name. Like Luther is not no Israelite last name. And, you chase it back to the Europeans that gave it to my people. Our people didn't take that willingly. Oh, I'm so proud to be my slave master. He raped grandma, or he you know what I'm saying? She slept with him, or however it happened. However the people merged, it wasn't good. We're supposed to have good names. But our colonizers say, oh, you got a good Christian name, John. I'm not a Christian anymore. I'm a child of the Most High Yah. I follow his laws and commandments. I'm a chosen king priest on the earth. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. So the name you have is supposed to be worth fighting for, right? So when you get into that name, image, and likeness, they are taking your name and listen, the endorsers only want people that have a good reputation behind their name. So they're obviously going to go to the athletes' children that have already been programmed into the MLB, NBA, NFL. Like they're going to go to those children first if they got the talent, and they're going to give them the NIL deals and endorsements, right? These are the kids that's going to get the leg up first because their parents have already been deeply programmed into appeasing the higher master. We get a better lifestyle because of our... Don't it sound like the Gladiators? Don't it sound like the movie Gladiator? Don't it sound like Spartacus or any of those movies where they were fighting in the arena, not just for their life, but for the glory of being free or the glory of having riches and wealth above all the other gladiators? So let's look at the children of Israel and the name that is our help, the name that should be above every name, and the name that should be on the lips of the children of Jacob. Let's go to Genesis chapter 35. So this is part one of NIL, the destruction of a nation, tying together just the small microcosm of this NIL. They're really using the name, image, and likeness of this people across every industry. How do you think the people get on the Wheatie boxes or the Campbell soup deals for the NFL? Like, how do you think you're getting the Sprite commercials and the Coca-Cola and the McDonald's commercial for these rappers? And how do you think they're being chosen? Their name, image, and likeness is being used to partner with these major companies to get more people to buy the product, use the product. Genesis chapter 35. So we're tying that together because our people are the main ones being chosen to manipulate us into using these products. So our kids grow up saying, oh, I want my own shoe deal. I want to be on a Sprite commercial. I want to be on TV. I want to be a rapper. Nobody wants to be a doctor, a policeman, a fireman, or a ambulance, a plumber, a contractor. Nobody wants to do any of the things you need. Nobody wants to do any of the work that we really need to live. Everybody wants to be an entertainer. Everyone wants to be in the Greco-Roman Coliseum, right? And you think of musicians, that's the same thing. The plays, the amphitheaters. So you're in the stadium, the Coliseum, or you're in the theater. You're doing acting and singing, or you're out here playing sports, fighting bears, lions, or each other. Let's look at this. Genesis chapter 35, verse 9 and 10. Let's look at how Israel got its sham. verse 9. Genesis 35, verse 9. And Yah, and Elohim appeared unto Jacob again when he came out of Padanaram and blessed Jacob. And Yah, or the Elohim, said unto him, thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall thy name be called, or shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. So the descendants of Edom, the Canaanites, Jebusites, Assyrians, Babylonians, Romans, Greeks, none of you people, none of them can be Israel, because the Most High Yah did not give them that name. He didn't give them that name. He didn't give the Christians that name. He gave some people that might call themselves Christians, that might be the true bloodline descendants of Jacob, the name Israel. See, Israel can come out of Christianity, but Christianity don't come out of Israel. Christianity is a name given to the Israelites, the followers of Christ. But there was Christ before Jesus. There were people calling themselves Christians before Jesus was even born. When you get some understanding, these games won't be played against you any longer. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 43. So this name, Israel, that those beginning nations was in confederate to make it in remembrance no more. Now we see how important this name was given to these king priests upon the earth, these peculiar chosen people. Isaiah chapter 43 reads as such, verse 1. But now, thus saith Yahweh, or thus saith Yah, that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. We are looking at Israelites that call themselves Christians, apologetically arguing for Christ against their own people. In 2022, we should know better and do better. But who wouldn't want to follow a Jesus that absolves you of all wrongdoing, allows you to keep all bad behavior? All you got to do is confess and believe him, ask forgiveness every time you sin. 7 times 7, you sin 1,000 times a day. Because all men have sinned and fallen short. Man, you wicked Christians use Jesus and Christianity as a way to keep doing wickedness. You don't want to be who the Most High chose you to be because you don't want to follow the rules. You'll hear a lesson like this and say, oh, ain't nothing wrong with sports. It's all for the kids. Ain't nothing wrong with soccer. Listen, I could tie birthdays back to a demon god. I could show you the sports is about worshiping Zeus and everything in the 4 years. And I could tie everything down together with the fake god names of the week, the names of the month, the involvement in the popes and the season. I could show it all to you, but you will still be wicked. But to call yourself by the giving, he said, thou art mine. Everybody in the world should want to be called Israel, not Christian. But the world has, in confederate, made the name of Israel unpopular. These people aren't around. The lost tribes are nowhere. No one can find them. No one's looking for them. But the name of Israel is a given name by Yah himself. Flip over to Isaiah 45. Isaiah 45, verse 4. It reads, "For Jacob, my servant's sake." Who's the servants of Yah? Who are the only people that could be the saints, the servants, the chosen, the peculiar, the kingdom of priests? But every other nation, the Romans have built their whole Catholic society on falsehood. But over time, you have power, you can make people believe anything. But when it comes to the one true creator, we're talking about the children of Israel are what's important now and in the future. Isaiah 45 and 4, it says, "For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel my elect." Who's the elect? Israel. These are the same people that come from Jacob. The Jacobites are the Israelites, are the chosen people of the Most High. "I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me." He already knew he was going to choose the Jacobites. He already knew he was going to give Jacob his name Israel, and Israel was going to be the people that should be the king priests on the earth, the ones that should be showing all nations how to act and get in line to the one and true Elohim. Now look at this. He said here, surnamed. "I have surnamed thee." Strong says a surname is a eulogize. It is a epithet. It is a cognomen. Okay. A surname, a flattering title, a title. So I highlighted out of this Strong's, we need to look up the word eulogize, epithet, and cognomen. So eulogize says to speak or write in high praise of, to praise someone or something in a speech or a piece of writing. "I have surnamed you. I have given you praise by calling you Israel or Yasharal." He's saying, I have given you praise by eulogizing and giving you the surname Israel. Then he goes on to say epithet, a descriptive or familiar name given instead of or in addition to one belonging to an individual. So he's saying, I've given you an epithet, a name besides your name, Yaakov. Then it goes on to say a cognomen, a nickname or epithet by which someone is identified. So you are going to be identified by my elect, or being my elect, my chosen kingdom of priests, my people, by this name Israel. Not Christian, not Mormon, not Jehovah's Witness, not Kojic, not Baptist, not Church of God in Christ, Church of Christ, not Catholic, none of that. You're going to be known by being called Israel. Israel will be my people, not spiritual Israel, bloodline descendants of the 12 tribes of Yaakov. Now look at this. It says, what is a surname? A surname or family name. Wait a minute. The Most High Yah gave the Jacobites a family name, his family name of Israel. It is the name, it is the same thing as your last name. So if a good name is more important than precious ornament and gold and silver, my parents should have called me Johnny Israel. My daughter should be Johanna Israel, William Israel, Mark Israel. That's why you see all of our sisters and brothers choosing them a good name that has meaning with Yasharal or Israel behind it, because it is the surname given to the true children of the Most High. It says, when filling out official applications, use your last name as it appears on official government identifying documents. Your last name holds clues to your family history. So your surname gives clues to your family's history. So by calling ourselves Israel or Yasharal, we are giving clues to who we are. A surname is the name that you share with other members of your family. I don't understand how we're going to call ourselves Israel and not get along and not be able to have conversation, not be able to sit down and discuss time, calendars, the name of Yah, how to greet each other, the language, all the above. We should be able to sit and reason together as family reasons together. You can argue and get loud without being disrespectful and without getting into physical altercations. You could be passionate about what you believe in. But they got us fighting against one another. Crabs in the barrel. Only one kid can join. We only got certain slots on this UIAAU team. And we only got certain slots over here for NIL deals. And we can only give so many scholarships. And we got a draft. There can only be so many people in the draft. You see how they make it so competitive. Everything's a competition. Got American Idol, we got Voices, we got America Got Talent, we got all kind of competition, and we run to it as if we don't have any education to do anything else. We should be teaching our children they can be more than just this hobby and just this Greco-Roman sport that is eventually going to lead them to breaking the commandments of Yah. I got to keep saying it. Let's go to Sirach chapter 41. Ecclesiastes Chapter 41. Ecclesiastes Chapter 41. We're going to read verses 11 to 13. And it says, the mourning of men is about their bodies, but an ill name of sinners shall be blotted out. Blotted out the book of life. Can't tell your kids it's okay to play these sports while you're young and then just think you can take it away from them when they get in the middle and high school. It didn't work for me. It ain't going to work for you. Just don't put them in these games. You're going to eventually be the Israelite being confronted by other Israelites while you're at that game and that event, thinking you can hide. Oh, I'm somewhere where Israelites ain't going to be. And Most High going to send Israelites there to rebuke you right in the middle, right in front of your children and your wife. You know y'all made a decision to willingly break the laws of the Most High Yah. Don't do it. I'm pleading with you. Don't do it. Verse 12, Sirach 41 and 12. Have regard to thy name, for that shall continue with thee above 1,000 great treasures of gold. Our names are very important. And now we see us prostituting, giving our names for riches. I'm reading to you, we should not be giving our names up, and which is our endorsement, right? To like our character behind our name is why they want us to endorse this product. We shouldn't give up our name that easily. Verse 13, a good life hath but a few days, but a good name endureth forever. Sisters and brothers, we just doing part one of name, image, and likeness, the destruction of a nation of people. And we're seeing how the heathens came together to take away this name given to us by Yah himself. They want the name to stop being used throughout the world. They don't want the people to find out who they are, because then they'll find out who their God is, and they will start being obedient, and it will change everything as you know it. You know what, a lesson like this, I don't want you to try to change and follow the Most High Yah once the economy crashes. Once the war starts, the economy crashes, they devalue the dollar, everything changes, the whole system of time and everything. They change everything. Are you going to be a new slave and just come right back under the new colonization? Or are you going to wait and say, well, I'm just going to change when that seems like God giving me a sign? You could be obedient right now. I hear our Hebrew Israelites talking about you want to change the structure and make a dent. If all the Israelites start keeping the Sabbath on Saturday, it's gonna It's going to make the institutions wake up. But if you keep the Sabbath of the Most High Yah, they're really going to wake up. You can't just take what, if you take what's given to you, that's just the deceptive way of making you think you're being successful. And many of you don't want to come on Yah's calendar and his time system because you're still controlled by money and riches. You think money and riches is going to give you a good name while you're being disrespectful and disobedient trying to achieve the bag. You're building a bad name and a bad reputation while you're trying to get riches. It doesn't make sense. The Most High don't work that way. He blesses those that have good reputation and good character and that are obedient. Some of you think, I'm going to hit the lottery and I'm going to get rich and then I'm going to be good and I'm going to be everything y'all want me to be. You're going to be exactly who you are right now, and that's disobedient. You're not going to change. You're going to have money and it's going to go away as quick as it came because you don't have Yah on your side. You know, if you don't have Yah with you when you don't have nothing, what make you think you're going to take him with you when you got something? So we found the people who turned against the Most High's laws and commandments. He sent the other heathen nations against them, that their name be remembered no more. We talked about how important the name is and having a good name is. We looked at what the NIL is, because the NIL is important because majority of our Israelites are in PWIs. They were receiving already the most scholarships, being hated on campus. Now you're giving them scholarship money and endorsements. Not good. Now, Dion and Jackson State is making you think it's going to even the playing field and more Israelite kids are going to come to HBCUs. It's not going to happen because you're never going to have the money that the PWIs have. You don't have the facilities and the resources. All you have is a culture. And if you let Europeans come into HBCUs, it's going to automatically change the culture because now you can't be discriminatory in the things that you do for predominantly Black people. So you're going to have to change that to make it comfortable for other races of people to be at your universities, which in turn changes HBCUs. That's how it works. That's how gentrification works. You get one family in your neighborhood, then they start passing laws and the council people start working to make it comfortable for that European family, and then other European families, the next thing you know, you can't afford to live in your own community. It's going to work that way at the HBCUs. The more popular HBCUs get, it's going to raise tuition, and then Black people aren't going to be able to afford to even go to historically Black colleges. That's just how I see it. I could be off my rocker. But let's look at something. Let's go to Deuteronomy Chapter 28. As we conclude part 1, I just want to show you something. I want to look at 3 curses. So Deuteronomy 1 says, if you obey the law, statute, commandments, you'll be blessed. You drop down to verse 15, you'll be cursed if you don't follow the law, statute, commandments of the Most High. So now, let's go to verse 28. Deuteronomy 28, it says, and Yah shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. This ain't happening to Romans, Greeks, Asians, Indians. This is not happening as we know nations of people today. This is happening to the people of Israel, the Jacobites that he gave his name to. You are mine. You are my elect. You are my kingdom of priests. You are my saints. He said, if you don't follow, verse 15, if thou shalt not observe to do all the commandments and statutes, I'm going to bring a curse upon you. It's going to make you mad, blind, and astonishment of hearts. Well, when you look at this in the International Standard Version, it says he is going to afflict you with insanity, blindness, and mental confusion. Are not our people struggling with mental illness? Do you not have family members and friends that struggle from mental illness? It wasn't popular back 10 years ago, but now it's more and more people are coming out. More and more famous people are saying they struggle with mental illness. That makes it now okay to come out and openly say, I struggle sometimes with anger, depression, whatever it is, right? It's okay to now, because you can go get help, right? The first way to get help is to say you got a problem. But how is this impacting our community? It goes well overlooked in our community, right? That these are the family secrets that are kept secret, right? Now drop down to verse 37. It says, and thou shalt become an astonishment. There go astonishment again. A proverb and a byword among all the nations, whither the Lord shall lead you. Now he scattered who? He scattered. When you see, Olympics is the best way to see all of Israel in every nation, because we are walking in that procession, right? As the Olympic Games open up, you start seeing all these countries you never heard of, and you're like, these people look like me. Now he goes on to say, you're going to be an astonishment and a proverb and a byword. Now look at this in the New International Version and the New Living Version. He's saying you will become a thing of horror. I told you they hate you. Just look on TV. Look at Talib Kweli. How can an ex-NFL player and his brother, why you got a gun at an AAU event? It's a scrimmage. How can a scrimmage get to where grown men are fighting and someone lose their life? You are the most admired and the most hated people on the earth at the exact same time. You are a thing of horror. They hate you. They are scared of you. A byword and an object of ridicule. An object of ridicule among all the people of the earth. The New Living Translation says you're an object of horror, ridicule, mockery. That's us. That's me thinking I'm doing some national championship on state championship teams, wrestling in singlets, showing my body off to a bunch of Europeans who could be pederasty, could be pedophiles. Now I think back of how many young boys have been molested in wrestling teams. We see what happened with Penn State, football coaches running in showers, waiting for everybody to leave, threatening scholarships and things with athletes. How much of this is going on? You want to play on my team? You got to do this, that, and the other. This is how pedophilia, pederasty. So in Greece, it was you had to agree to do it willingly. But now here, they're taking young teenagers and young kids unwillingly. It ain't just in the Catholic Church. It's in the sports leagues, AAU leagues, minor sports teams all over the world. How many young boys and young girls are being led into pedophilia or being molested to keep their place on the team? The things that was happening at the high school I put my son into, he's scarred by it today. I shouldn't even, and everybody that was at our church that went to this same school, they knew the same thing was happening at this high school. In McKinney, you talking about in the suburbs, but everybody in the suburbs think they in the hood. But the things that was going on for these young players that think they was teammates, the things they was doing and hazing, and the things they was flushing kids in the toilets, beating them up in the showers, making them do unseemly things. The 4 high school kids in Oklahoma that raped the young black boy. 4 white boys raped the black boy in Oklahoma. Nothing happens. What is going on in our sports teams today? And we'll send our kids right into this Greco-Roman environment, not knowing how these other kids have been raised. Look at this last curse. Deuteronomy 28:65. And many of you know, many of you athletes that been in college and high school, many of you that played at high levels, many of you know the bullying and the hazing that go on the teams. You know what I'm talking about. You know there is a innocent hazing, and then there's a thing that gets to borderline, you should go to jail for it being done. And then you could do things that young men and women can never recover from. It happens in sports. It happens in sororities and fraternities. It happens everywhere where you get a mob bully mentality, and these people think that I have to make these people coming up that's taking my spot go through this, and it becomes a bad tradition of horrible acts that's happening. Tell me I'm lying. Somebody in the comments, somebody's email me and tell me I'm lying, that atrocious and abominable bullying doesn't happen in the sports leagues throughout this world. Tell me it's a great thing. Tell me your kid's on a basketball team right now that's great, and I'll tell you the next one he get in might be hell for him. Now, you already got your children breaking the commandments. Now, what are you going to do when your kid gets violated? He gets violated and somebody sticks their penis on your child or makes them do something they don't want to do. How are you going to respond to that? A lot of you are raising middle school and high school kids right now, and you don't know the hell they're going through at school, in that sports locker room, by the coaches and by the players. You just blind. Oh, hallelujah to Jesus. Oh, Kwam Yahchanan, I'm an Israelite. I keep the law, statutes, commandments. But your kid, you got him in school, public school, going through hell right now. You parents need to get your children and sit them down and hopefully you got a relationship where they tell you the truth of what is going on in these schools today. Look at this, Deuteronomy 28:65. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the soles of thy foot have rest, but Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart, a failing of eyes, and a sorrow of mind. We got our kids, we are in these institutions because we're not understanding we are still colonialized under a system that was not created for us to be successful in it. Our success is fake, it's temporal. It can be taken from us at any moment, don't matter how much money you have. When you look at it in the Good News Translation, it says, you will find no peace anywhere. That's my people. I don't care what I think I got. I can leave off my land and I can run right into somebody that is hateful against whatever. Just looking at me, I don't like you. They could take my life and go to court and be free. I'm not going to argue with nobody about what state we are in as a people here in America. It says no place to call your own. I pay a mortgage on this land. It ain't mine. My name's on the deed, but I don't own it. I don't even own the mineral rights under it. I could have a Great Lake size of oil under my land, and I can't get into it because I don't own the rights on the dirt under my own house. Many of you people out there fooling yourselves right now. You're living in a made-up world in your mind. You don't want to look at the reality of what it is so that we can come together and make a change for the better. It goes on to say, and Yah will overwhelm you with anxiety, hopelessness, despair. That's what the children of Israel are going through. You can't be spiritual Israel if you ain't going through anxiety, hopelessness, despair, horror. You're being ridiculed just for who you are. Europeans don't want to walk on the same road. They don't want to live in the same neighborhood. You don't have Karens torturing you. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have people trying to make this world great again, and it was never great. America's always been at war. America's always been killing and taking. And that is the God's honest truth. We need to come to reality and understand that you're walking around with any kind of religious understanding and you think you're doing any good for your Jesus or your God. Listen, you got to look at this Bible. This Bible is about the children of Israel. Every scheme, every law, every group of secret organization, everything is being used to take and deceive and destroy the children of Israel from off this earth. That is the number one goal of all nations of people that know that they were not called by the Creator to be the chosen king priests on this earth. It's a known fact. It's many books written about it. There's many books written about this understanding, about who we are upon this earth. My goal as a teacher is to make sure that those that hear my voice, you're able to make these changes in your life so that you can impact your children, because that's what's at stake now. As soon as you start bringing life into this world, that's what they want. That's who they want. That's who the music videos and the social media and the technology and the AI that's coming and everything, the meta world and the metaverse, everything is being tuned up to get your children further and further away from the Most High Yah. Sisters and brothers, this is just part one. I don't want to tarry too long. I've already been long-winded, but sisters and brothers, part two is even going to be better than part one, sisters and brothers. So stay tuned the next week. That's my lesson today, part one, the name, image, and likeness, the destruction of a nation. Stay tuned. Y'all say the same, part two for next week. Khan, let's close out. Let's go to Book of Sirach, chapter 17, verse 24 to 26. Always close out with this scripture, because no matter what, you need to know this. Verse 24, but unto them that repent, he granted them return and comforted those that failed in patience. Verse 25, return unto Yah and forsake thy sins. Make thy prayer before his face and offend less. Turn again to the Most High and turn away from iniquity. For he will lead thee out of darkness into the light of health, and hate thou abominations vehemently. Let's stand and face Jerusalem, sisters and brothers. We're going to close out with Numbers chapter 6. As always, we're going to read together. Repeat after me. And the closing benediction. Numbers chapter 6, verse 22 to 27. And Yah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yah bless thee and keep thee. Yah make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yah lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name, Yah, upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Yah Barak Yeshua. Yah Barak Yasharah. Yah Barak Atam. Hallelujah. 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 Sisters and brothers, till we see each other again, may Yah bless you and keep you.